I made an 80s R&B beat using just one VST and some stock sounds from FL Studio. In this video, I'm breaking down the chords, the theory, the sounds, the drums, and the samples that I used. Let's go. Beautiful folks, what is up and how are you doing? This is Valentine to Plug, your favorite struggling R&B producer, and we're back in another video. We're making a late 80s R&B beat today. Now the thing is, I don't listen to a lot of late 80s R&B. I don't listen to a lot of 80s R&B in general, but I definitely should be doing that a lot more because they've got some absolute gems. And I'm not just talking about the artists that we know like Anita Baker and Michael Jackson and Keith Sweat. I'm talking about some real good hidden gems. But the song that inspired me the most is this song right here. Now what I think is cool about this song is that it blends a lot of elements from different genres into one, such as R&B, funk, disco, soul, electric, synth pop, a lot of good stuff, and we're using that as a template for this beat. Okay, welcome back into FL Studio, beautiful people. Let's talk about these chords. This chord progression is written in the beautiful key of A flat major or G sharp minor, however you want to call it. The chords are actually pretty vanilla minor and major 7 chord, nothing too intricate, no sus, no diminished. Well, there's actually this diminished chord right here, but other than that, it's a pretty accessible chord progression. I didn't do anything to spice it up because I felt that the patches I used to create the sound ensemble was just so good, it didn't need any more chord extensions or whatever. So we're going to the preview, try and pay close attention to the chord callouts, and then we're just gonna touch on the chord progression a little bit once we get back. So you've listened to the preview, and I think that at this point you realize that this is a chord progression that you're pretty familiar with. But before I get into that, I want to give a quick shout out to a commenter on one of my previous videos, Jamie Silverstein, who corrected me on the way I was applying the number system to denote the chords that I'm using. What I used to do is that I translated the major degrees to minor because I thought that would make sense, but actually you're supposed to just adhere to the way that they're being denoted in major. So in other words, while normally I would say that this is a 6-5 one chord progression, it is actually a 4-3 6 and then a 1 chord progression. In other words, it goes from C major 9, the 4th degree, to a C minor 7, the 3rd degree, goes down to an F minor 7, the 6th degree in the major scale, and then it lands comfortably on a G sharp major 7, which is the 4th degree. Okay, so let's get to talking about our drums. Honestly, everything was smooth sailing. You know, it's still the late 80s, so that means that the Roland TR 808 is still a popular drum machine, and a lot of those sounds you can find in one of the stock drum kits in FL Studio. So that was easy. I got a kick that I wanted to use. The most difficult thing was actually finding a snare, and I had to go onto Splice to find it. Now I thought that I was supposed to find it in a synth wave or a retro wave or a vaporwave kind of kit, but I stumbled across a hip hop drum kit that had the exact snare that I needed, and you're about to hear that in the drum preview. Let's go. So you can definitely hear that computerized inspired drum groove that I used for my beat, but you know, there are a lot of 80s R&B songs that use that groove. So it's a popular groove to base your drum beat on, so use that if you really want to. Now with the drums out of the way, firmly in place, it is time to head into the sound selection. Hey, and beautiful folks, I just want to say, if you really rock with what I'm doing, please take the time to like, share, and or subscribe. Preferably all 3. I would appreciate it, and it definitely helps to keep this channel growing, and it definitely helps to keep me even more passionate. Okay, let's get back to the video. Alright, so back in FL Studio, beautiful folks, and I've got every instance of the Jupiter 8 pulled up just to show you guys that I wasn't fucking around when I said that I was only using this VST for this beat. What you're seeing is a collection of pretty much analog sounding keys, strings, bells, pads, and bass, and I chose this because, you know, towards the end of the late 80s, multiple styles started fusing together to form R&B and offshoots of R&B, such as New Jack Swing. So you had funk, disco, electro, and synth pop, all of which were prominent during the 80s, coming together to be blend together in a new form of R&B. So that's why I chose this sound, to really do that late 80s sound, that analog sound, which has its roots in synth pop, funk, and disco, and soul, and all of that, a lot of justice. But let's go to the preview. You can see exactly which patches are being used and how they're just being put into context. So before we move on, there are two patches that I want to highlight. First is the Different Ways patch, which is this one right here. That's the main patch that you're hearing in the hook playing the chords. But in the verse, I decided to switch that out with the Honky Tonk patch. I thought it was a cool contrast, you know, to only keep one patch for the chorus when you're really supposed to get a climax, when it's supposed to feel grand, and one patch for when it basically, there's an energy build up, a slow gradual build up in the verse. That's the decision I made. But I'm not just ready to send y'all off just yet. There are still a couple of samples that I want to break down, shed some light upon, because they really turn the beat into what it is. So let's head back into FL just a little bit. The truth is, I basically cannot think of this beat without these guitar samples. All of them I got off of Splice, and I specifically looked for a certain kind of guitar sample, and that is more of a funk based guitar sample, which is what you're hearing in the main loop. I consider this one the main loop right here, but you're also hearing elements of funk in the other loops that are playing. So I thought that these were real cool, you know, good to have them present in your mix, and they really add the finishing touch to what is considered a late 80s R&B beat. Beautiful folks, we've reached the end of this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this breakdown, because I definitely had a blast making this beat and explaining all of my cool decisions to y'all. I hope this inspires you to delve into that 80s R&B sound and make some beats of your own. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and I can't wait to see y'all back in the next video. Y'all be easy. Peace.